Hello everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out to celebrate the life of Rich Creadore. I wanted to open up the celebration of life today just by reading the obituary, and then after that we're going to have Mandy and Gary come up to share a song with everybody. Richard Daniel Creadore, 69, passed away in the comfort of his home on July 21st, 2024, with his loving wife by his side. He was born November 13th, 1954 in Bridgeport, Connecticut. He was known for his love of music and was a professional musician and music instructor. He was of the Catholic faith. He is preceded in death by his parents, Rocco and Jean Mazzuca Creadore, and his sister, Linda Turso. He is survived by his wife, Julia Creadore, his brother, Clint Creadore, nephews, Patrick, Natalie, I'm going to butcher this, I apologize, Spadaccino, and Randy, Alexandra Turso, niece, Roxanne Spadaccino, great niece, Jessica Spadaccino, and many other relatives and adopted students. Rich performed as a bassist in the band Head East from 1992 to 2006 and previously played in the Hank Blues Band. Right out of high school, he played with Vinnie Cusano, Vinnie Vincent from the band the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, and Kiss. Another former band that he has played with was the Zotos Brothers. One of his favorite studio jobs was at Electric Ladyland in the early 70s, Jimi Hendrix studio in New York City. He has had studio sessions with many notable artists, including and working closely with Sparta local Gary Gordon. The only thing Rich loved more than performing music was his love for teaching it. Rich studied at the Berklee College of Music in Boston and began teaching at age 21. He has given lessons across the nation, from Connecticut to most recently Sparta, Illinois. He played instruments of all kinds. He had hundreds, if not thousands, of students whose lives were all touched by him in some way. Rich customized what he taught based on his students' musical preferences and tailored his teaching to the level of the students. He had the patience of a saint. Even when teaching the same popular songs over and over, Smoke on the Water, Back in Black, Enter Sandman, he had a genuine passion for music, and he loved sharing that passion through his teaching. He will be greatly missed, but his presence will live on in the lives of all he has touched during his time here on earth. And at this time, I'd like to invite Mandy and Gary up. And after that, we're going to start inviting everybody to come up and share a story or experience that you had with Rich. So maybe start thinking about some times you had with him.
I'm going to cheat and watch the lyrics on my phone so I don't get distracted. Bear with me a second here. Okay.
Maybe come up to Randy.
Okay. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but
my heart to fear, embrace my fears relieve. How precious deep that grace of you, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. Feel grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. That was lovely, thank you. Rich was like a brother to me. I guess when he found himself in Southern Illinois, he came to the first music stores and checked out the scene. And we just started Alligator Music. And we were all so young. And he taught me lessons at our store for 28 years. And when we liquidated 10 years ago, we just remained friends, in touch every day. Very much a part of our life. And this is to Rich. The universe rejoiced the day you came to be. You are unique among every living thing. We were blessed to know you. It's hard to turn the page, but you are reinvented and you will never fade. Made of time and spirit, your soul will not decrease, nor will you diminish, and knowing will not cease. The things that you have felt and all that you have learned, you will take them with you. Your past will be preserved. You are not a season. Life did not measure you. We celebrate you today. You'll always be brand new.
So, my name is Mike Sippo. I had the honor of being a student of Rich for 6 years, friend for over 20 years. And I think a fun story I've been hearing from everybody is like, how did you first meet Rich, right? So I met Rich actually through one of his students, a longtime friend of mine too, a girl named Ruth Masker at the time that I was dating in high school. And I would come to Alligator Music during her lessons to come see her. And I always remember Rich coming out, and this is the first time that I saw him. And I'm pretty sure he was kind of looked at me, he's like, who's this guy that's here all the time? You know? And talking with him and Gary, I decided, well, I always wanted to learn guitar. I did piano back in the day, but I took some interest into it, and sure enough, they helped me select my first guitar, the Black Den Electro that I still have to this day, and signed up with lessons, and we jump-started into music. And again, I was just amazed at his knowledge of music. And as you mentioned too, tailoring to the student. I knew nothing, but he made every lesson enjoyable, informative. I still remember my very first song that I learned with him and got to actually play along, Red Hot Chili Peppers' Californication. That's what he started me with. And we started sharing our love with different bands. Beatles was a big hit of his. shared things with that. But I remember certain songs that I wanted to play that I found out wasn't his touch. Cutting Cruise, I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight, which he just called I Died in Your Trunk Tonight. He hated that song over and over. But I always remember, one of the things that I enjoyed doing was looking for newer artists, newer music, newer riffs, and playing with him with that, and trying to, kind of break away from the everyday mainstream, to make it entertaining for both of us. And I remember, one song where I was playing, the frets on my guitar that I had, there weren't enough to play. And he allowed me to play with one of his guitars. It was a wooden guitar, an electric wooden guitar that was just amazing to play. And sure enough, they had a wooden TV at the store that I ended up buying to kind of help play with that song. And I shared that with him. I still have that to that day as well. And I can always remember, too, that the guitar that he used to play all the time with was his Gibson guitar. That was very special to him. That's one of the things I always remember with him as well. But it went just beyond music with him. We started talking about other different things, technology. I was studying computer science. He was starting to look into computer stuff. He was talking about his love for teaching, wanted to create a new children's book, a new children's way of learning with different strings or colored notes to help with that. And we got into that. And so these guitar sessions just doesn't became just musicality, but also became just like a bonding session, a good, half hour just to be with somebody, to, just get away from all the craziness of daily life. My bond with Richard, though, grew really strong with some tragedy. So I mentioned Ruth, the girl I was dating. We ended up breaking up. And, then in high school, some high school drama. I remember, too, I had a lesson and she was rescheduled to show up after mine after we broke up after some time. But it was also after one of his lessons that I got to reconnect with her at a gas station. And we ended up burying the hatchet, becoming friends again. And not too long after that, though, she was involved in a car accident and she, too, would pass away. I remember the first phone call that I'm having, and it was a couple of days later I had my guitar lessons with Rich. And this was kind of shortly after even 9/11 happened. So I had this presence when I was with Rich that maybe he did not know, because I was kind of out of it, but he didn't seem that way. And so I brought up, hey, did you hear what happened to Ruth? And he had not. So I was the one that broke that to him. And he was the one that would call her family and keep stats, and he would later provide that she passed away on his birthday, no less, to my parents, and I got the news from him. So we were able to kind of communicate, what happened to something that was very special to us. And this is where, I really saw that, it was more than just teacher-student. This was really the only time out of the 20 years that I've known Rich that he was upset, because he always had this very calm demeanor. He was always happy. He was always cheery. But this was the one time that he was really kind of kicking himself, saying why didn't I cancel that lesson? Because she was coming to his lesson when the car accident happened. Why didn't I do something as well too? And I reminded him no, this was not your fault. And it was through that, because of that experience, that that student teacher relationship really bonded more into a deeper friendship that I've always had. From then on, we would always be communicating. My parents were still living in the area, so on Christmas time I'd come by, hang out with them. We would just talk about daily lifestyles. And again, I wasn't the greatest student, as some of you have heard. I didn't get to practice all the time, but that never upsetted him. It was always a joyful time being with him. He always looked forward to us reconnecting. When he was coming up to Head East, it was the last time they were playing for the St. Louis Rib Fest. He invited me along, and I actually got to be on the stage with him to watch the entire show. And I remember I'm coming into the stage, and people were like, wait a minute, who is this guy? And Rich said to them, don't you recognize this? This is my brother. Sharing our Italian heritage. And I got to sit in front of the stage, watch him do the legendary playing the bass with the drumstick. Just having the time of his life. I'll be almost like the water boy, really the beer boy. We're running back, getting them, Bud Lights or Bud Light Premium and everything. But it's just one of the greatest times to actually really, see, his joy of the music, the fun times with Head East. And I was really grateful to, reconnect with Julia and him right before COVID hit. I actually came down and spent the entire day with them. He was so thrilled that, they were getting their new house. They're getting ready to renovate it. They were showing me, everything was stripped down, but all the floor plans and everything. And I ended up staying dinner with them. We went to the Orchid House, and Gary was getting ready to perform there. And I overheard somebody says, they always liked the spontaneous with Rich, right? That he would just like to come up and jam. And sure enough, they looked at Rich and said, "Hey, you still have that one guitar? Why don't you go bring it and come play?" And sure enough, he was out there and he was jamming with them the entire evening. And so it's, it's hard to say goodbye, but again, this is a celebration of a man that, again, was more than a teacher. He shared his gift of music with everybody, but he looked at all of us not just as students, not just as fellow musicians, but as good friends, but I think more importantly, family, right? All of us were his family. And he taught everybody from all ages, which is something that I appreciated, from older people to teenagers to even young children. I remember, one of the students after me was probably about 8 years old. And again, all the different instruments, from flutes to cellos to bass, drums, guitar, you name it, he knew it. And it was just an amazing man, just had amazing love with music, just amazing passion. And so, like I said, we will miss him, but, the party's just starting in heaven now. He's with his friends, Eddie Money. He always told me all the stories of Eddie Money. They're up there jamming, up there with Ruth, looking down on us. And he's not just remembered just from Julia, but from all of us. And it's always great to see the people here and how you touched our lives. I hope that all of you this kind of breaks the ice and can share your stories. I'd love to hear it. But I thank God that he was a part of my life. He played some really important roles in my life. And he'll forever be a friend, a dear friend, and like I said, a brother to me. And so may he rest in peace. And until we meet again, my friend, God bless.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Brittany, and Rich and Julia always called me their adopted daughter, which is a title that I hold with honor. I started playing the piano in first grade, but I didn't meet Rich until middle school. And I'm sure that my mother can tell you, after many temper tantrums and fighting lessons, I was not succeeding very well with my previous music instructor. And just kind of a difference in playing. And the problem seemed to stem for me that I was having a lot of trouble reading the notes, but I could hear it very well and could actually end up playing things as long as somebody would play it before me. So somehow my parents heard about Rich teaching lessons, and I think that was right about the time I got a guitar, but also still couldn't read any notes, but was trying to stumble around on tablature. So I remember the first lesson that I went in with Rich, I didn't really know what to expect. I just walked in and he's like, "Hi, I'm Rich." And I'm like, "Hi, my name is Brittany. I can play, but I can't read the notes." And I was expecting backlash, and he goes, "Well, that's okay. You don't have to read the notes." And I was like, "Really?" Because everything up until that point was, "Oh, you didn't staccato here, and you're playing it wrong. You're adding your flair to it, and that's not how this song was written, and you need to write it the way it is on the sheet music." So that started this amazing relationship that had opened up with me with music, because no longer was I trying to play exactly what was written by somebody else. I could take what they did and I could hear it and I could make it my own and I could play it. And most of what me and Rich did, hardly any of it got written down. You can see some of the music up on the board, and most of us that had lessons with Rich left with papers that looked just like that, half finished, maybe not even finished at all, because he said, "We're gonna finish this next week when you come back," and he knew, I'm right back where I was last week. Probably didn't practice very much, maybe practiced a little. He could always tell. He never shamed you for it, but he could tell. He would smile on his dimples, you would know he knew that you didn't practice that week. So, but as I got older and as I became to love music more, Rich kind of opened up this door for me where I realized that I could almost play any instrument. I can't really play any of them extremely well, like some of the gifted people here, but I can dabble and I know how they work. And he kind of opened up all this different stuff for me where, hey, you can play this instrument as long as you know the scale, you can actually play anything you want. So for him, I mean, there got to be a point in my life where we were doing 1.5 to 2 hour lessons. Just don't tell my parents that probably a half hour, an hour of that was just us talking. So I'm sure some of the other students may feel the same way. But as I got older and, you know, Rich and Julia always felt like part of the family for us. And I know that Rich has just affected so many different lives. I mean, there's so many stories that people could come up here and share that I'm sure all very similar about how he tailors his musical style to the student. The biggest difference between Rich and any other music instructor is he never made you feel like that was wrong. He would say, you know, you're adding your own style to it. That's fine. You don't have to remember the notes. That's fine. Play it and just make something beautiful. And that's all you need. And that's what set him apart from, I mean, everybody else. But what's really crazy is you start to learn how many students he actually had. Grown-ups, young people. I know my sister tried the violin for maybe 2 weeks and that didn't work. But everybody you've talked to is either somehow taken lessons from Rich or knows somebody that's taken lessons from Rich. And I remember, you know, meeting my husband now and saying, hey, I need to introduce you to two really important people in my life, Rich and Julia. And he's like, Rich Creadore? Yeah, I took lessons from him. I'm like, no way. So it's like everybody you know has somehow been touched by this man. And he just, you know, and the thing is he was so ahead of his time, but like Rich was streaming the videos and things way before Netflix was a thing. Rich figured it out, and I would go to his house and be like, Rich, can we watch this? Like, this was back before you could just pull up a video on demand. He had it all. He was tapping into Canadian internet for free. Like, he figured all this out. He was so smart. And I remember thinking, I want to be like Rich. Every hobby I had in grade school, oh, Rich has fish tanks. I want a saltwater fish tank. I want this. Like, literally, he was my idol growing up. And just because he was just like the best role model for me. And we had so many evenings where we would just hang out. I would go to their house on a Saturday, or we would pick up a project. Like, I want to paint the music room. Hey, I can help with that. Well, I've never painted. We spilled paint all over the place, whatever. I'm sure Gary and Roberta were like, oh my God. Like, we're painting the music room on Christmas break. So, but it was like, there's just so many different things. I mean, I could stand up here for hours and just share story after story, but I want to hear some of the other stories that I haven't heard yet, because I'm sure that there is a common theme between every single one, that Rich was an amazing person who touched so many lives in more ways than we can even explain. So, and I know that there's people actually watching on the live stream too. I can see it popping up that there's different people joining in from all over. So know that this is the absolute coolest celebration of life ever, because that's what it was. It should be a celebration, because he was an amazing person. And even though he is no longer here, he's no longer feeling the sickness that he was, his life just lives in so many people. He shaped so many people to be who they are today. So thank you.
My name is Monty Jackson, and I am and was a friend of this dear brother. And I want to thank you, Julia, for taking care of Rich. Yeah, thank you for taking care of him. He was a loving, humble, greatly talented man. As I listened to you talk about all of the ways he taught, right? Yeah. Trying to find the way you learn. He was also very diverse in the different musical genres. He and I were having a dialogue about jazz. I was like, man, this guy, where did you come from? You know, it was very interesting, because when I met him, we were here in Sparta, and this guy, we were talking about musicians, and I told him I told him, I said, look, I know this one great bass player. His name is Neil Steubenhaus. He's played with all of the greats, Quincy Jones and all this. And we were talking. He says, I went to school with him. He lived down the street from me, and we used to go and play together all the time, play music. This guy was phenomenally humble. Phenomenally humble. And I just had to get up here and just say, what a great, wonderful man. It is so, he is one who, even though right before he passed, he and I talked about 2 weeks before he passed, he still wouldn't tell you how he was doing. You know what I mean? He didn't want you to be burdened with it. That tells you something about his heart and who he was. And so I just wanted to say that. Go in peace, my brother.
Thank you, Mom.
Was there anybody else that would like to come up and share a story? Sure.
Z for Zollner, so I'm last maybe. Hey, I'm going to change gears a little bit. Everything that's been said thus far, I mean, I'm right there with it as far as the techniques of learning. And I had a strategy when I took a few lessons that I didn't practice like I should have, and I couldn't, produce the results. So I just change the song every week, So I get that. But I want to change. I want to change gears, and I want to say that I was able to help Rich and Julia work on the house in the early part of the house construction, and it involved the gas line. And Rich asked me, he said, hey, we're going to put gas in. I want to change it. I want to, move it, fix it better, and would you be interested? And I said, sure, because I had went to school a few years before and took an electrical class and got a certificate and tried for an Ameren gas job. So I used to work at a place called Sparta Light Metal Products, and the one really good thing about Spartan Light was you could go to work and talk to about 5 or 6 guys and ask them all their opinion on some type of construction or work or something related to household. And you might get 5 different answers, but you might get 3 or 4 that all corroborated or collaborated or matched. And then you might get somebody out here in left field or something. So if you had 4 people tell you how to do something, that was probably the way to do it. So anyway, I told Rich, I said, yeah, I can handle this, and made the decision to go with flexible gas line. And when I was tearing into the old existing gas line, Rich was like, hey, you want to stop there or do you want to keep going? I'm like, well, if I'm going to do it, put my stamp on it, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning and bring it in the way, it needs to be. And he's kind of hesitant, but he let me do it. So I got it in, and we actually worked together a little bit on it, and it went really, really well. And my job, I thought, was complete. And they called the Midwestern or the gas people, and they came out and they put the pressure on it, and it's well, I didn't see Rich's facial expression when that happened, but I'm sure it wasn't real good either. But anyway, so Rich calls me up and he says, hey man, this is leaking like crazy, what's the deal here? I'm like, I did everything right. I knew that I was very confident on that job. So I said, hey, I'll be right out. So had to change my pressurization strategy. I had to change some valves on a tank that I had, and I jacked up some pressure on it, and everything's good. So I go out there, and of course there's no gas anywhere because the guy checked with oxygen first, or air. So I hook my apparatus up, and I turn the valve, and it's and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I can't see very well without, a pair of reading glasses, and couldn't back then either. And I just kind of got down there, and the air's hitting me in the face, and I look, and in this T, this black pipe fitting T, which is what, you're supposed to use, there's a hole in it, like this big. It's a factory, QC didn't do their job, and there's this gigantic hole. And I said, well, Rich, I said, look, I said, it wasn't a pinhole. I said, there's a big, maybe bad word, hole there. and Rich looked at that, and I saw that expression. And, he shook his, because you know how Rich was. I mean, he's shaking his head a little bit. He's looking at me and, probably taking back what he thought, about my work and everything. But anyway, I'm like, he's like, well, can you fix it? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Let's go back to Buckeyes and get another tee and put it on there and put the Teflon, and tighten it up. And so I asked Julia the other day, how's the gas line working? And she said, no problem. So,
Good job.
Good job.
but yeah, I just thought I'd change gears a little bit. And,
You're a good friend to him.
well, I've lost a lot of friends in the last couple of years, and they all affect you differently. And this one's probably affected me differently. So, thank you. Gas line working okay?
It's working.
Well done. I hope I can talk here. I don't know, man. We're pretty tight. Met Rich over at Young's Lounge, which was right over there, and there was music about probably 5 or 6 nights a week. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I come back to visit my folks, and I had my Fender amp and my Telecaster guitar with me, and I thought, I'll just go in there and see who's playing. I knew there was music in there while I was visiting my folks. I went in, and Rich introduced himself to me, and I told him that I was a musician and I had some instruments with me. He said, bring it in. So I came in and I sat in for the rest of the night, and I came back another night that week and sat in with him. So that's the openness that, you love it, and the openness that Rich showed. Really, really cool. Maybe you'll see this as a little bit of a funny story. I had come from North Carolina, and Rich had just recently come from Bridgeport, Connecticut. So we both said, huh, a lot. I couldn't make out, his brogue was so thick, I couldn't make out what he was saying a lot. But we got to know each other, and as the years went by, we got to understand each other perfectly. And maybe this next story will exhibit that. Rich would help me on records in the recording studio, and I had him in playing bass on a song. He was a great electric bass player. And I was in the control room looking through a window. He was in the big room with his bass and amplifier. I had my guitar amp out in the vocal booth. And we're playing through the song, and we did the first pass through, and I think this song can feel just a little bit better. So we did another pass on it. And I pushed the talkback mic, and I said, Rich, I think you might be rushing, meaning speeding up. And he looked at me, and he said, I think you need to tune up. So that's how we got along. So I tuned up. Rich put it right straight in the pocket on the next pass. I just got an album yesterday from one of the men that I'm working on a record with. He's down in Miami. And I had Rich over to play sitar on his record. I don't know, it might have been less than a year ago. I know he was pretty ill. He was able to get over, and I helped him out of the truck. We got his sitar set up and mic'd up and in tune and tested. He did a great job on it. That record will be released this week, and the promoter said, I think this one's a hit. The song that Rich played on. That was his hit. There's the sitar thing. Rich he's here. Loved him.
Thank you, Gary. Was there someone else?
Mine is short, just a little different. My son was a little boy, and like 4 days before Christmas, he said the only thing he wanted was a red electric guitar. But we had everything bought. So we go to Alligator Music, and he gets a red electric guitar. I asked him what the brand was before I came up. He said it just said the Shredder on it. I'm not sure how we ended up with lessons with Rich, but I dropped him off at the music store after hours, and Rich comes out and gets him, takes him in, and locks the door. And I'm sitting in the car, and I thought, dear God, let this be the right thing to do. Long hair, you know, somebody I don't know, so just locked my son in the store. And then fast forward into high school, and one day Chris says, if anything ever happened to his parents, he wanted to live with Rich. So that was the answer to my prayer. So thank you, Julia. Thank you, Rich.
I'm not sure. I just recently started, well, it feels recently, it's probably been a long time. I was taking guitar lessons from Rich. When I was 8, I wanted to learn how to play the guitar. And my parents decided I should start with my brother's trumpet. And I was about this tall, and the trumpet case was about this tall. And where I went to school, I had to carry it up a very steep flight of steps. And at the top of the steps, the trumpet case bumped the very top step and went in over in. Nuns came out of doors that I didn't know existed, wanting to know if I was okay. And I didn't touch that trumpet again. But I never lost the desire to learn how to play the guitar. And when I turned 50, I bought a guitar. And someone said, call Rich. I'm like, okay. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to learn to play classical guitar because I don't sing. And the strumming doesn't make sense to me because nobody knows what you're playing, and I'm not going to try to sing the words. And he's like, okay. And the first time I tried to play, I couldn't spread 2 fingers across the fret, you know, and every time I tried to play a note, my fingers did this, you know, and I'm like, probably should have started before arthritis kicked in. He's like, no, don't worry about it. And he says, is there a song you want to play? And I said, all I've ever really wanted to play was Silent Night on Christmas Eve on a classical guitar. So he wrote it for me in notes. He took a week, and I went back the next week, and he said, here it is, and he showed me how to play it. And that Christmas, this 50-year-old woman saw a dream come true. 50-something, that's all you get to know. And I kept taking lessons, and I wasn't really getting any better. And job got to be a lot, so I had kind of stopped going. And when I texted him, the last thing Rich texted to me was, don't ever stop playing. So thank you for the dream to come true, and I'm going to pick it up again. So thank you, Julia. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everybody.
Was there anyone else that had anything they wanted to share?
I'd like to.
Sure.
When I turned 60, I decided that I was going to learn to play the violin. So I went and bought one, and I thought my daughter, who taught music, could teach me. And she says, oh no, you need somebody who plays that. I'm like, you can teach me. And then she says, I won't. Well, I broke a string and I went to Rich. So he signed me up. And then I seen, no, she could never teach me, that I needed Rich. So I started lessons, and I had a grandson, and he's a little bitty guy, and I said, he had a guitar that they never had him play, and I said, I know who can teach you that if you want to learn. So he says, okay, Grandma, I'll go with you. So we go, and we get going on our lessons, and that little guy, he could knock it out of the ballpark. He could go to town on his lessons. And I would get to my lesson, and it looked like I had never looked at it. I practiced, and boy, I was ready. I had it. And I kept thinking, I just go to pieces. What's the deal? Well, then I had another little grandson that took ukulele. He could knock it out of the ballpark, too. And finally, I realized that those kids didn't have the understanding about Rich like I did, because every time I sat there with him, I knew he was a great music legend in our time, and they hadn't got that. They just thought, oh, Rich is just a cool guy. And I just couldn't keep it together. I knew who I was in the presence of. And I used to tease him that he could take a binder twine string and put it on a stick, and he could play it and make it sound like something. He was that awesome. And I sure love Rich, and I'm sure gonna miss him. He's a great guy. And he said another thing. I don't know what's with you women. When you all turn 60, you want to learn how to play the fiddle. I don't get it. He was something.
Oh.
Yeah.
It seems that there's a theme here. I also started playing in my 50s. Very mediocre at best. And I had taken lessons from Rich for several years. And he would always ask me, what do you want to play this week? And I came up with the idea that I wanted to play Junior Brown's rock and roll melody. So, Rich pulls this up on YouTube, as he always did. He starts playing it back. And he's about halfway through Junior Brown's rendition here. And he goes, Bob, you know this is beyond your skill set. And I go, how well I know, but I sure want to play this song. He gives me the look and he goes, we'll do the Reader's Digest version. And I go, great. And I learned that song. So that was the closest he ever got to putting me down about my skills. And I would often go there and do things, and I wasn't getting it, and I could see it on his face, and he goes, well, let's try something else, you know. So, but the biggest thing he gave me, I met this young lady without knowing her, Brittany, because I heard every week stories about her. I met Monte, which I first time I met him was today, but I knew him because of their connection to music, and dozens of other people that I had never seen their face, but I knew their family, and we were all family. So that was the greatest gift that he gave me. Thank you.
So, my name is Rich Creet, which is not Rich Creadore, which the amount of messages and calls that I got through the years were like, didn't I take lessons from you? No, not me. If you guys look at this board back here, I can't believe you kept that article that I wrote back in high school about them touring. Kind of like Brittany, I got my guitar when I was pretty young, and I started taking lessons from Rich. And just like the lady a while ago was talking about, your parents are dropping you off, and this guy unlocks the door and lets you into this dark music store at night by yourself, and you're like, well, I got you one better. So Rich was cool in the fact that, just like with Brittany, when he saw somebody that he saw, I hesitate to use the term, but a different light, he would take you kind of under his wing.
Yeah.
So here I was, 13, 14 years old, cruising down the highway in a van or an RV with a rock band, going along to carry equipment and get water and do all these cool things that, like, I felt so cool because none of the other students got to go be on tour with this guy, even though it was one show. So I went to this show and he was playing with 38 Special, which, at the time for me and as a kid, I was like, oh my God, those are like big time rock stars, So that was one of two times. The second time, he also invited us along. I got to take Larry back there, my cousin, with me. And we got to be roadies for the day again down in Benton in Missouri. And we got to the racetrack, and we're looking for the band, and they're not there. And we got word that they had gotten in an accident on the way down. That was when they lost the trailer rolled from the RV. So I'm talking to the security guy, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta get in. I'm their roadie. I gotta be here when they get here. And he was like, well, do you have any like credentials or anything? I was like, no man, I got my Head East shirt. So Larry, this guy gets on the radio and goes, I don't know, there's some kid here that says he's a roadie. He's got a Head East t-shirt. And they let us all in. But it was super cool because when they got there, Rich thanked us for coming, greeted us. We got to sit underneath Kevin Cronin's piano and move drum mics and get towels and water and all kinds of stuff for the band. But I regret not keeping up with Rich over the years because, I got to go on to tour, to be recorded and be played on the radio and do all these awesome things that I'm still playing. All because this guy opened the locked door and took me into the dark music studio and took me under his wing. And again, buddy, I wish I'd have kept in better touch with you and thanked you for all that stuff. And I'm sorry I didn't. I hope you're listening today to let you know that, man, look at all this. So I hope he knows he was appreciated because he sure was. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with everybody because I thought it was cool. Thank you.
Was there anyone else that wanted to come up and share a story?
Hello.
Hi, my name's Jessica Plumley. Me and my younger brother over there used to take lessons from Rich when we were kids. I'm 38 now, he's 35. We used to have a guitar teacher come to our house and give lessons, and then when he graduated high school and went on to college, we needed a new teacher. So somehow my dad got in contact with Rich, same thing, show up at the music store late at night, drop us off, each had a half-hour lesson. Dad, sometimes he'd stay, sometimes he'd leave and come back. But anyway, he helped us out with everything from guitar, bass, piano, flute, trumpet, voice, whatever. So once we got older in high school, we took lessons, and then towards the end of high school, once we got jobs and everything, kind of fell away from the lessons. We still kept in contact with Rich. About 10 years later, some time later, I inherited my grandfather's accordion. And this is a huge accordion that's like 120 button accordion, one of 4 made in wherever, Italy, whatever. My dad wouldn't let me have it because he's like, oh, you play enough instruments, whatever. Well, he finally ended up letting me have it. So I called up Rich and I'm like, hey, I got an accordion. I was like, can you help me learn it? He was like, I don't know a thing about the accordion. He's like, but if you want to come in, we'll learn it together. I said, okay. So he scheduled me a lesson just on a random, like an hour lesson night, I think, because we knew it was going to take a long time. So I get it out, and he's sitting there with his guitar and stuff, and I had this old book from like the 1940s, like lesson book, showed you just different stuff. I didn't know anything about it. He didn't. We're looking around, and in the middle of all these 120 buttons, there was one with like a little divot in it, a little like where you could feel that there was like a little divot hole there. And we're trying to figure out what it is, and I'm like, what does this mean, you know? And we're just thinking. I was finally like, I've got it. I'm like, Rich, play a C. And he played a C on the guitar, and I played it, and I was like, it's middle C. And I'm like, we were so excited, and like, so we started learning together and kind of putting it together, and he was teaching me. We were playing Metallica, My Chemical Romance, like all kinds of stuff on this accordion, and it was a good time. But anyway, we kept in touch over the years. Like my daughter, my oldest 14, the little one's 10. They both got to meet him when they were babies, and so, but I hadn't seen him in a long time. But anyway, that's my story. So.
Anyone else?
Kind of close it out.
Sure, if you'd like to close.
With a prayer.
Look at all just like that. It's like, hey.
It's up to you. You don't have to. Whatever you're comfortable with.
Try.
Okay.
Are those being live streamed? Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no.
Just ignore it. You're good.
I can't. It's impossible now. Of course my brain turns off as soon as I get up here. This always happens. Well, since I can't think of Jack Diddley Squat, I think I'll just pray. Yeah, I think I'll just do that. All right. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, amen. Grant them eternal rest, O Lord, and let the everlasting light shine upon them. May they rest in peace. Amen. Most holy face of Jesus, have mercy on us. Saint Nicholas of Tolentino, pray for us. Saint Padre Pio, pray for us. Our Lady of Sorrows, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and continue the visitation now. For anybody that hasn't had a chance to come up or look through the pictures, now you can do that. And we also have 3 of Rich's songs that he posted on YouTube, and I'm going to have that playing on the TV in the other room for those that haven't had a chance or would like to hear it. So thank you.
Loving hearing the stories.
When you go back to this way, yeah, when you go through that doorway over there, it comes around and then the backwards right there.
You told me how you were talking about tubular bows. We watched the whole thing, and it was really, really, really cool. And then there was another one you showed me that I saved my phone back. It was like a whole band, like on this circle platform. And like, yeah, and it was like a whole one take, and it was the same. Like, I I literally was like in shock. I was like, dude, there's so many sounds happening in this right now. Like, they it was really, really good. But the tubular bells that he told me about, he showed me like these great, like, just that one little spot that he was and it's like a whole giant song. I know! And every time I hear it, it's just like, oh, hey, Michael. I was in trouble to go and tell me the story that I wore the shirt. Whenever I was like this sort of thing, I was mentioning like I was like target songs before I knew about it, and then he showed me about it. I was so happy. So then I went into the music, I like went through all of their music, and I came back and I was telling him about the song we found off this album. Two of my favorites was Then Came Classic and May and Scream. And I was showing him, and he was so like, he was like, how do you say this? And then when he said this, like, and he's
I'm doing the live stream. I love it. It's beautiful. Thank
But yeah, he told me about his song that you were and all that stuff. Yeah. Take care. I still had a list of things to show and also, like, I've been playing music with Andy, and he, I forget all what he told me, but he told me about a lot of the bands that you told Andy about. And Andrew was like saying how the shit that you showed was like really, really intricate and like shit that he probably would never found if you didn't tell it to him. So I don't recall what I said. I'll have to ask him. Okay. Well, like, he was telling me about it, and he was like, I've never even heard of it until you told me. It's like a really, really cool. Because we've been playing, whenever I hang out with him, we didn't listen to all kinds of stuff, but we listened to yours recently because he was telling me about your stuff, and like, we listened to so much different things to get like, inspired, but yeah, he was telling me about your song was really good, so it was good. I remember that we were showing, it's like, hey, you're taking, I remember that one. We listened to Captain because of you. Yeah, dude. No way. Dude, we literally listened to that album at Andy's on the TV, and he, like I said, he told me that you showed us and shit, and it was awesome. Okay, well, the yellow album. I was thinking of, oh man, I've been out of vocal a lot of stuff, but I think it's one of their more recent ones. The one I was thinking of was one called The Mountain. I showed him one song called Cockroach Game. It's a very good one in my opinion. Yeah, it's just like, it's like, okay, man. And I just got really like red-faced and embarrassed. It's just like, man, this is not happy enough. No. Literally, like, he mentioned, like, he liked it. He was telling me that this was really, really cool. Because the thing is, like, we, even though we listen to kind of the most insanely brutal shit ever, we literally listen to, like, all across the spectrum of music, dude. Like, it's crazy. I know. Boy, do I have bands for you. Yeah, the Cockroach Case. I so badly want to say, Richmond is like, oh yeah, I took more lessons from this love beaches, and that's like, I'm sorry. He's like the first bass player of Weather Report, like one of the big like jazz fusion bands in the 70s. Like, I'm sorry, it's fine. It's just like, oh yeah, I went fishing with him like after lessons. Yeah. He had
we have a couple house concerts that we did by
I didn't rewatch it. And I'm like, oh,
just fabulous.
yeah.
I don't know that I know that.
So my husband's and she never stood the last while I was in it. And I thought, well, I'm guessing that's
I got you. And one of the guys that worked on my house. Something really tragic Yeah, it took a while to get back there. Do you remember what year they might have started that?
The house?
Yeah. About
our grandson is 18. I want to say he was
Okay. I was thinking, that sounds about right. I wondered, oh yeah, well before COVID. Way before.
Yeah, I want to say 2002. Yeah, because
Yeah.
we've always worked on it. They spent the summer in Mississippi work, and it took them and so I'm pretty sure Parker was 14 when they did that. So he started in college. So,
do you think that the entertainers you saw could have been a duet?
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
He'll remember.
Okay.
I have no.
We had some fascinating duets. We had a really fairly famous duet that worked with Amy Harris, the Tashins, Barry and Holly's Action. And then we had Still on the Hill that were incredible. Okay. All right.
I'm doing okay.
Now I got real sick and then I couldn't keep up, and then so on. So I can feel the pull going back. Oh yeah.
Pics were an awesome idea.
Still streaming. Yeah, they were.
Oh.
It's okay. You're fine. Hey, Trev. There's still a bunch of people on here.
Oh, yeah.
There's still a bunch of people. So I'm just going through, each thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of people sharing stories back and forth in the comment section. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. Some people are like, thank you so much for shooting this, I didn't get one of these, so if that's the last one.
I've got one that's kind of folded and crinkly. If you want, we can straighten this one out a little bit, press it under a book or something.
I feel like Julia needs it too. I mean, they could probably print some more.
Right.
Look.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. The guy left tracks all over the globe,
I'm trying to hold it steady.
Yeah. I can break that down a little shorter if you want.
Break it just to where I can hold it here like this? Yeah.
Who's singing there?
That's Rich.
Yeah.
The voice. Yeah. One of these songs is him singing. The other two are just instrumental. But the one is actually him singing.
This on YouTube?
Yeah, if you just search for Rich Creadore, YouTube, it'll pop up.
It's got a really awesome sound.
This is him singing.
I never heard him singing.
He could when he wanted to. Yeah, Julia said that two of them were just instrumental, and then the third one actually had music on it.
Did that she record?
I'm not sure. That's Julia. Thank you. I'm gonna take it over to the photos. Okay. There's a lot of people like watching right now on Facebook. Yeah, a bunch of people that couldn't make it. So I'm carrying this camera around, showing the pictures and everything. Can you? How do I adjust it?
Adjust what? The height?
Look, I gotta make it. Okay. That's fine. I'm gonna carry it over there.
But then it's gonna be tilted down.
It's fine. I can carry it a lot better.
Orient the phone that you want to type on, okay? Turn this knob here.
Can you help me, please?
Back it up a little bit.
I'll just hold it. I just need to be able to steady it. That's the problem. It's fine.
You can just grab all the rods and push them together, and you can just hold it.
It's fine. I just want to pan over some of these pictures.
Carry, I'll help you with breakdown and carry out.
Oh, okay. I mean, if you want to, I don't mind at all. It'll be just a minute. I'm gonna back it up.
You know, Rich looked at me and I'm like, blowing me in the face. I've had that.
I can't use the tripod. Oh my gosh. There we go.
Hey, Brittany. I met you about 3 years ago.
Did you?
You were at the motorcycle place.
Yep, that was me.
I met with Rich. They were in the process of getting rid of the house, like getting it painted, so that then they were in the middle of moving. And I drove over there with him, and you gave him a bunch of boxes.
Yep,
You helped,
empty boxes. Yeah,
right.
so they can move.
So
I forgot
met
about
you.
that.
Yeah,
I'm doing the live stream for. Oh, you're fine. I can talk. That's what I'm not trying to ignore you. There's a bunch of people watching, and that were watching the stories and stuff. So since there's people that aren't here, I'm trying to show them some of the photos too. But yes, I do remember that. Actually, I completely forgot about all those empty boxes. That was cool. Well, very good to see you again. I'm glad you're here.
Sorry, it's under these
I know.
circumstances.
I am
Are you the one that called me that day?
Yep, that was me.
See, Rich would almost always text me. He wouldn't just call me. And I had just texted him the day before. I told Julia this. I would text him like 3 times a week. Just, how you doing today? And, you know, he'd usually say, it's so-so. Or, you know, some days he'd say, it's actually not a bad day. But that day before, he said, pretty lousy. You know, I said, well, I slept with my windows open last night, and I've been sneezing the whole day. There must be a bunch of stuff in here, because it got real cool that night before, Friday night.
Yeah.
And then I woke up about 15 minutes before you called me, And I saw the phone, and I have him stored as Rich C. You know.
Yeah.
I thought, what's Rich doing?
Why is he calling me?
And then as soon as I heard somebody else's voice, I knew you didn't have to say anything.
Huh.
I thought he had a little more time. I told you
Thought he did
this.
too.
I saw him about 2 weeks before he died. I brought them. He was driving me crazy to bring him a peach pie from Schnucks because I made the mistake of telling him that I got this killer peach pie. You know, like a month before that. He called me one time and I was eating the peach pie. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm actually eating a peach pie." I said, "How is it?" "It's great. It's ridiculous." And he says, "You got to bring one for me." Yeah.
Well, I was sitting there with Julia and we were trying to figure out what to do next, and she's like, we've got to call people before they hear about it.
Yeah.
So she was able to do maybe the first 4 or 5, and then she just was like, I was like, hey, I'll call and try to at least get some of these phone calls out, and then if you want to chime in or take over. But after a while, she was kind of like, well, just, I'll call them later, you know.
So you had to...
Well, I'm glad that she called me because she needed somebody there. And thankfully, I was only 45 minutes away, but it was a long 45 minutes getting there, you know.
Well, the thing was, I was texting her on Rich's phone like that whole week after he died.
Yeah.
And she was always, I wanted to talk to her, but she always had somebody there.
And that's good. She needed people there.
She needed people there, so I didn't want to call her while she
You don't
was
want to interrupt. Yeah.
And finally, I got to talk to her like 4 days ago. We talked for about a half hour. It was good to talk to her.
Yeah.
She was doing all right at the moment.
She's had a hard, it's been really hard on her.
She went through a nightmare. I mean, for about the last year was pretty bad.
And my grandson was so proud of that too.
I think I realized about a year ago that he's not going to get through this. You know.
Trying to hold this steady, having a hard time.
So, this is your wedding.
That is my wedding.
When was it?
That was in 2022, October.
A couple years.
And Rich and Julia signed our marriage certificate.
Okay. Is this at his house?
That's at my dad's house.
Okay. Because they had that picture up somewhere at their house.
It is. I gave them that for Christmas. They have that photo at their house.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm going to come down.
Yes.
Try to visit Julia when all the
Absolutely.
everything settles down a little bit. So you said you live 45 minutes away?
I live in Pinckneyville.
Oh, you live in Pinckneyville?
Yep.
That's where my grandfather grew up.
Okay, so it's not that far.
No.
But it seemed like a really long 45 minutes that day, you know.
I've never seen most of these pictures, like 90% of these pictures. It's so cool to see. I didn't know what he looked like when he was young.
I know. Well, that's what people are saying, like, oh, we want to see the pictures. Okay. Yeah. Well, it will eventually be. I'm trying to hold the phone as steady as I can. It's kind of hard. But there are actually people watching. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. See what people are seeing?
Hey, Clint, did you get... That was Roger Boyd, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Did you get to talk to him or say hi to him? That guy from Nevins. I didn't. He just came through and went through the line, and I think he left. Yeah. The guy wearing all black with long hair back.
Yeah, I think that was Roger.
He was like the driving force of the band.
He was,
He
yeah.
was the lead singer. He played the keyboard. He was, he was definitely the leader of the band. I saw them when I was like 12 at Six Flags, when they first were big, like 1978. I mean, they were great. The guy that was here I think that's Roger. Yeah. He's probably in about 5 or 6 of these pictures. Here's another one.
We're killing ourselves.
And I think that was his wife.
It's a slow death. No, it's not together. Well, they say sometimes.
They're going to play a show. I'm not sure if they're together, but they're going to play a show with a bunch of like 80s, 70s, and 80s bands somewhere in St. Louis pretty soon. Yeah.
Yeah, big lawsuits. And there's big lawsuits, we was talking about the trees, there's big lawsuits all over the country against Monsanto for 2,4-D and dicamba. And that's, I think, why he sold it to the mayor.
Okay, it's good to meet you. We're very sorry for your loss. We're all going to miss you.
I don't know how they do it, they know it, it's coming.
I'll try that. Nice to meet you.
My dad actually worked for he's 63, he's died. And I remember when I was 2 years old, no problem.
Everybody tried to help.
No problem. I was bit by a dog once too. I remember exactly when I got there. And my
Technology is crazy. But it is really cool that there are people actually watching on Facebook.
But anyway,
we're going to save the video later so that some people that may be busy right now can view it later.
That was right in the middle of a sentence. 2 years old. Okay, I remember my dad was chief paymaster in 2005.
The one question I was trying to ask you that I never got answered from him, because I always forgot to ask him. The first time I walked in that house, it was all gutted.
Oh, yeah.
Farmhouse. Did you redesign the layout of it?
Yeah. Well, you know, we can smell it here.
Okay, I haven't done this one yet.
So he knew you were a carpenter.
I abandoned the pod because it couldn't go low enough. It's fine. I'm just trying to have the steadiest hand, but this is kind of hard. It's fine.
Tripod acts like a ballast, a weight, so it's steady.
I know, I noticed that, but then I couldn't go to the bottom of the boards.
But if the legs are loose, you can raise your arm.
But I'm almost done now.
And in between these layers is a whole and it's caulked all the way around. You've got to tell about it. They had wood burning and they had the water pipe that had been running under the floor. In the bathroom,
You see that comment? Somebody commented they can hear that that's Rich's instrumental. He recognized it. He says that instrumental that's playing right now is so good.
What is there, like a crawl space?
He recognized that that's Rich playing. It's so cool. I thought you might get a kick out of that.
Oh, yeah.
You never went on Facebook.
Yeah. Basically just like a place to mingle with people and see what they're doing without actually having to get out.
Trying to figure out one problem and then 3 more.
You're afraid to tear it up? Yeah. Yeah. I understand. I did rehab. Yeah.
I have no idea how much money it's on.
Yeah. It wasn't cheap. Yeah.
10 times more than he thought he was going to.
Probably, yeah.
And those yes, we put 9
90% of the joys are replaced. Put stiff backs under the joys and tie them into the joys. Because they were heavy, the spans and everything. Build flat or square. We put plastic down on the ground. We put gravel in there.
Yeah. Well, you sure did a nice job. It's kind of a miracle that he got all that done right before he got sick.
And we were, we had all the plywood stored in his garage, his house. And where I go, I'm gonna carry some of those over. Help me carry one day. And he ran out of breath, and he's like, I gotta take a break. He had problems.
Yeah.
And, you know, he took him about 10 or 15 minutes to catch his breath.
He was still smoking, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Cigarettes.
It was at that time.
Yeah. Because he didn't tell me anything, you know. And I had a meeting. He introduced me to a guy in like May of 2021. He didn't tell me anything was wrong. And we went and we met at this Chinese restaurant. And then he goes, "Oh, you want to go see the house?" You know. And I said, because they were working on the house. And I said, yeah, let's go see the farmhouse. And he goes, "Okay, well, just jump in my truck and then I'll bring you back." So I get in his truck, and he's got one of those 100-foot oxygen cords and a green tank. And I go, what is this? You know? I thought he was going to say, "I'm volunteering at the senior home." You know? I go, what is this? And before I can even see, he's putting it right. I go, "What's going on?" And he goes,
Got one more left.
like a month ago, I couldn't breathe.
And then I'm going to turn her off.
But I don't know if it might be fun.
You want to say
But yeah, just like I'm not pushing it, but just like anytime like a hangout at band, I'm not trying to force that over him. No, you're good. I heard it honestly, like Andy calls you down, but like I said, he likes to really do show him, so it'd probably be fun. Because me and him, we'll sit and watch like 5 shows a band, and it's like so also, another thing I found is in one of those ones, other than it's Olympic high grade, how do you even afford that? Which I don't even know what is it. Which is it? I can show you. I also had a GNL like Facebook.
I think I have to join Facebook.
You may have to.
Everybody tells me to, man.
Well, I'll show you why. Because once I'm done posting all this on here, you can go back and look at it again. But it's kind of cool to see updates from people from all over the world that you wouldn't have otherwise.
And the Olympic track 5 thing, I don't know if I've
Yeah, Julia posts on Facebook a lot. Yeah, well, I don't know if he wrote them, but that's his handwriting. It could have been from a student's lesson, or it could have been a song he was working on. More than likely, it was for a student.
You know him better than I do.
Well, all this stuff was in his lesson room.
After he left Connecticut in 1980,
Yeah.
I never really seen him again, you know?
Well, this is what most of the students went home with, was stuff that looked like this, and that's how we practiced, you know. But I don't know. The only one that I think is actually his is this one. So this one right here says copyright Rich Creadore 2018. So it makes me think that this one he actually may have wrote. But I don't know because I can't tell what it sounds like. So we were laughing when Julia and I found this one because there's something over here. He would put little notes like this. It says, bouncy bass part. So that was always little notes and things like that, you know.
You still play?
Not as much as I should. I honestly haven't picked it up in a long time, but I used to a lot.
Guitar?
Everything. Play piano, bass, guitar, drums, trumpet, saxophone. That's why me and Rich were like this.
Thanks for working so hard.
You got to find other musicians and jam with them.
I do. I need to. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything else that I wanted to take an up close of. See, look, somebody just said, "Oh, the sheets of handwritten songs are so cool to see." People are literally like commenting on it as I'm doing the video. See?
You must have known him.
These are all the students. I went to school with him.
When he lived in Connecticut, he played with some really good musicians.
Yeah.
People
He was
that were really
amazing.
famous, you know, Edgar Winters and them.
It was amazing. I think I'm going to do one last pass through and then I'm going to turn this off. Kind of one last chance for anybody to look. If anybody would like one of the memorial Rich Creadore pics, just send me or Julia a message on Facebook. We've got a few left. We can just put a stamp on it and send it out to you if you'd like one. Sorry for the shaky video. Trying to get the right. It will not focus on the words on the urn. There we go. It does not want to focus.
I walk in their house and she gives me the fish eye. I go,
All right, signing off.
she's always right there.